And so next up, we do have Matt Fern, who is going to talk about a leading electrical contractor's digital strategy. I'm not going to try and do much of an intro. I do know, though, that Matt, when we were doing an A/B test, we found there's a whole bunch of kind of musical instruments in the background. I was like, oh, Matt, are you in a band? He goes, no, I have started a band, and I've started a band with my kids. I don't know if he's lined them up to play a little number for us today, but regardless, I'd love you to all welcome Matt to the screen.
Thanks very much for allowing me to present at, it was great to be asked by the AMCA to present at this year's conference, especially from an electrical contractor point of view. I was asked to present on Stowe's digital journey and what we've managed to accomplish. So let's see how we go. First, I'll just touch a little bit about me and what I've done. I started in the industry in 2008 with a mechanical contractor. So yeah, a little bit of common ground there. That's after completing my apprenticeship as a chef. So that's probably a usual career progression for most people, I'm guessing. I then worked for a multidisciplinary national engineering consultancy for 11 years as one of their BIM managers, which was great. And then I have commenced working with Stowe Australia last year as their digital engineering manager to help consolidate their efforts around the group and further develop their in-house capabilities. I've been using Revit as my tool of choice, authoring tool of choice, since about 2008 as well. And I maintain my certification in mechanical and electrical certifications with Autodesk. One of the two drives I think that has gotten me to where I am now is two things which I found a lot of people who live in the virtual world don't seem to do as often as maybe they should. And that's getting out on site and asking as many questions from as many different sources as possible, much to the entertainment of some of the engineers I work with, that's for sure. So my presentation today is going to be a little bit different. I've put something together that hopefully works well with an internet-based delivery. I'm going to go over an overview of Stowe Australia as Australia's largest privately owned electrical contractor. I'm going to show you how our digital adoption has assisted our core values of safety, customer, people, and innovation. And I'm then going to show you how our internal culture is adapting to our internal BIM process. If there's time, we might follow up with some questions. Now, I've put this together as a video presentation to hopefully alleviate any potential technical difficulties. So we'll see how that rolls. I did make it specifically for this conference. So let's, don't comment on my editing skills, though I'm learning. It's a good technique. And Dylan, if you wouldn't mind, press play.
Stowe Australia is Australia's largest privately owned electrical and communications contractor, who recently celebrated our 110th year of continual service. Supporting over 1,500 staff nationally, Stowe Australia delivers specialist electrical and communications contracting services throughout Australia to the commercial, infrastructure, and industrial market sectors. Our capabilities are diverse and comprehensive, covering all types of electrical installation work, engineering, maintenance, and national rollout projects. Our core values of safety, customer, people, and innovation underpin everything we do, and our digital transformation journey has supported these values. In 110 years, Stowe has embraced a number of authoring tools and evolving processes, from drawing boards to AutoCAD to Revit. However, it has been in recent years with technology advances and industry adoption that we have embraced BIM and digital engineering. Definitions and technicalities aside, BIM for us is the ability to engage all our stakeholders in the virtual construct, where a single point is used to assist with safety, satisfy our customer demands, engage our staff, and drive future innovation. Let me show you a few examples of how our digital journey has aided our core values. Safety is everyone's responsibility, including those working in a virtual environment. Coordinated elements certainly make life easier on site, but there can be specific examples where a coordinated model also reduces safety risks. In this example from one of our recent projects, the installation of cast-in threaded rod receptacles not only results in a significant time saving, but also reduces silica-based disease concerns by minimising the requirement for masonry drilling. The location for these cast-in receptacles were all coordinated, documented, and set out from our working model. This level of trust in the model was achieved by not only engaging our drafting and engineering team, but involving our construction team from day one. Of course, clearance zones, equipment access, working from heights are all other reviews we conduct during our safety and design audits. But I think this example helps highlight the level of trust we place in our models, and to their credit, other trades responding well to the accuracy required. One of the simplest and often underestimated BIM use is visualization for communication. Working with our supply chain, technology partners such as A2K, and of course our internal staff, we provide a level of detail that leaves little to the imagination. While our internal stakeholders might be familiar with an orange box representing a switchboard, questions are often asked when elements can't be easily identified by a visual inspection only. Taking our models to this level also assists our customers to appreciate their facility prior to construction, provides our construction team project familiarity before even stepping a foot on site, and also provides a clearer design intent to the other trades and construction partners. Being one of the most basic BIM deliverables, maybe it gets overlooked for its simplicity, but it is honestly one of the most valued BIM uses to all our stakeholders. Taking that extra step in our families makes a very big difference. Our digital journey has given us the ability to introduce non-traditional stakeholders to our models and engage our staff in a way not achieved in past years. While our BIM leads, drafting teams, and engineers are still very much part of the process, we now actively seek the advice of our construction, estimating, and management teams at the earliest possible moment. Finding that perfect mix of engineering and construction input is a challenge I'm sure you can all relate with, but access to our BIM models via platforms such as BIM 360 and Revisto allows discussions, input, and corrections to occur by stakeholders not usually looking at design models until they are building them. As our construction teams are the boots on the ground, capturing their skills, knowledge, and lessons learned is important during the design process, so changes can be made at a time when the cost impact is minimal. A more efficient solution for our customers, external design team, and ourselves. This access allows all our staff to engage with the project, provide their opinions and advice, ultimately raising job satisfaction by feeling they had a legitimate influence in their built environment. Unlike our mechanical counterparts, as an electrical trade, we don't have large amounts of manufacturing like in their ductwork. However, we do generally have the largest numbers of equipment and devices to contend with on site, and our BIM models can assist with that management. Firstly, being able to extract information from the model affords our site teams the ability to prefabricate off-site containment hangers and rods. Fabricating these elements off-site allows a controlled environment that won't be affected by weather or other on-site restrictions. These prefabricated elements also increase productivity on site, as quite simply, it's easier to move cut lengths of strut on a pallet than it is to move 6 metre lengths. Of course, manufacturing these elements off-site has a few other benefits as well, such as minimising cutting tasks and equipment on-site, and it allows us to manage a just-in-time delivery system, minimising site storage requirements. Secondly, through schedules exported from our BIM models, we can create room kits that our storemen put together. These kits provide our construction teams the exact equipment required in each room, reducing product loss and increasing fit-out efficiency. Maximising the internal engagement to our BIM process has been one of the biggest drives in the last few years. The more involvement we can get, the better the outcome is for us, the extended design team, and most importantly, our customers. Our approach now is to do the best of our ability, granted within the project constraints, leveraging as much data as we can from our virtual construct. We use the BIM process to meet our internal construction requirements, not just to achieve a contractual obligation, by meeting and in most cases exceeding our client expectations. We are continuing to push the boundaries of what is possible via this technology and challenging the way we have always done it to leverage the most benefit for all our stakeholders. One of our future goals is using our own data to assist business decision making, design options, and to more effectively apply lessons learned from past projects. With software advances happening faster than ever, we don't expect these goals to be too far in the future.
That is some of what Stowe has been working on, will continue to develop. It is, I guess, a lot of our advances as well, and how we're able to adapt to our projects is also in response to the respective construction partners we've worked with. A number of the other trades also responding very well, which of course the collaboration part of the BIM piece certainly makes it a lot easier when that is occurring. So I don't know if there are any questions, but other than that, I'll leave you there.
Thanks so much for that. Got to tell you, if that's the first cut that you've had at doing editing, you did an incredible job. That was a pretty polished piece of video.
Thanks very much.
Done on that. Just outside, I'm really excited about when we talk about technology in terms of enhancing our capacity to collaborate.
Yeah.
And often what you're describing there is some collaboration across quite disparate groups. You know, you've got a pretty broad range of stakeholders involved in that. Is there any tips that you would give people, like from your experience, any tips you would give in terms of how do you set up and facilitate that collaboration to be effective?
Sure. Actually, that's interesting you say that. That's it's actually some lessons learnt that I took on from my working with the consultancy. It's one thing I found that and it's probably one of the challenges we're having right now, while things like video conferencing is fantastic, and emails are great, if we can't get together in person, then don't underestimate the phone call. I found that sometimes just being able to just pick up and talk, have a conversation, it's something that doesn't come across very naturally. Well, at least not for me anyway, with a video call. And with an email, emails can often be misconstrued, or you don't seem to have that flow. They're all important, but number one for me is getting together face to face, finding an excuse to get together as a team, get on site, or get to that project office wherever it could be, and short of that, pick up the phone. While the technology is great and it all has its uses, I find that seems to be one of the biggest pluses, is when you can have a chat, and maybe it's not all about work. Maybe it's what you're doing on the weekend. I don't know. Actually try and make a genuine connection, even with those outside of your business.
Yeah, so kind of a bit of that, just making time for that relationship building, which was one of the things that came up with the guys from Southland earlier. And I take on board what you're saying. There's so many different communication channels that we have right now. It's sometimes confusing to know which ones to choose. And I think that when you talk about telephone, it has a certain combination of informality, that video conferencing, that has to be scheduled, and I have to be in a particular place. I've got to be in a certain frame of mind to be ready for that. Yes. Whereas telephone has a certain informality, but also a personal aspect to it. I just wanted to reach out. I wanted to touch base. I think it's some nice advice, even though it seems really old school.
It does, but at the moment, I think it's that scheduled activity that you're conducting. You've got a meeting scheduled, and it's scheduled at 10 o'clock today, and that's what you're talking about. That's what you're addressing. Sometimes you miss that natural flow of where the conversation could take you, which maybe it does work for, video conferencing will get better, but you're still having that problem of talking to a computer screen, which is why I did a video. Yeah. I did same problem. You've got no audience to judge. In this case, there's a video, I can see you, but often that is not the case either. You might be just staring at a whoever's presenting screen. So I find that could be me personally, but nothing replaces you at least being able to pick up the phone or add that to your. Don't rely on everything else, except some of those older technologies still can work quite well.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Obviously, we think back 6 months, and a lot of people, it was a baptism of fire when it come to using video conferencing. It was like everything that was done, old face-to-face meetings suddenly got shifted into these virtual spaces. And I think that initially I was like, woohoo, we've managed to make Zoom work. But I think the real answer is far more nuanced than that. It's about, this period of time going, okay, this is another communication challenge, another opportunity, but what's the right fit for what I'm trying to do? And I think, as you said, from that relationship building perspective, it's really hard to kind of go, I want to schedule a video conference with you just to have a chat, or just to check in and see how you're doing. I think there's a certain fatigue that people are experiencing around it now as well. Yes. That if you're in kind of 5 hours of video conference a day, kind of nice to have a bit of a mix up and just have a phone call. So I think that, as I said, it's a lovely piece of advice, but focus on that relationship building and use the different channels at your disposal, whether that be face-to-face, video conferencing, phone call, email. Try and pick the right channel for the conversation or the intent of what you're trying to achieve. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is the right message. Is it definitely mixing it up? I think we sometimes sort of avoid the phone sometimes when it would be easier to talk. It's very hard to misinterpret a phone call. Video calls are great, but you are kind of trapped in your location. At least on the phone, you might walk around out on site or out in the sun or something, and it could flow a little bit better.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thank you so much for your time today, Matt. As I said, A+ for your video editing skills. I was super impressed. Thanks so much, Matt. We're going to go to our next speaker, but I do think there's a beautiful message in there from Matt around, when we even talk about this as a alternative to the physical conference that we would have attended last year, is trying to take that nuanced approach and understand what parts of this work really well, which parts of this do we kind of start to grate on us a bit. And I think, we probably, as I said, all missing the physical connection that comes when we all get together and prop ourselves at the bar at the end of the day and have a beer. But let's play around with these tools and make sure that we're not kind of making these black and white decisions about the technology we use, but actually starting to understand in a more nuanced ways, how do we apply the tools in the best way we possibly can.